Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode here on Donarum. We're playing Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney. We're on episode 5, part 4 of this wild trial, and we're going back into the courtroom now.
Yeah, we just got homework, too. It's not really an opportune time.
Yeah.
Miss Skye.
We should set Emma to start reading through that.
She just left.
Ran off, so...
Yeah. The court will now reconvene for the trial of Miss Lana Skye.
Oh, crap. That girl. Always running off.
I'm sure Luke won't mind.
Allow me to call the next witness to the stand. The officer in charge of guarding the evidence room on the day of the crime.
He's just drinking in the courtroom.
Witness, please state your name and occupation.
Me, partner? I'm just a wandering man, wandering the trails of civilization.
Occasionally helping the elderly cross intersections when needed. Yes, we get it.
Oh, I know. You're a patrolman. Glugga, glugga, glugga. As for my name, if you listen hard enough, you can hear the howling wind call it out.
To be exact, it's Jake Marshall, Your Honor.
How I've never heard Edgeworth described that way before.
Now, Mr. Marshall, let me ask you something. You were in charge of guarding the evidence room on the day the crime took place. Is this correct?
Well, according to the papers, partner.
How'd he get the weapon into the courtroom?
That's a good point. That's a good point. What do you mean? Desperado soul is as boundless as the desert sands. No paper can sum it up. Maybe it's best we get on with this quickly. Please share your testimony of the day of the crime. In plain old English. Day of the crime. My job was to keep a wary eye on the old bone orchard. Said I was supposed to make rounds 3 times a day. That ain't my style. Besides, the room was protected by 2 security systems anyway. If I remember right, I was at a street side saloon at the time it went down. I'm just an innocent traveling man, so if you're out of ammo, it's time I hit the trail.
That's it? That's all he gave us?
Wow. Can't say I particularly care for your attitude. I can't say I care for your beard. Don't see me complaining.
Wait a minute. What do you mean by 2 security systems?
I mean the security cameras and the ID card reader. I reckon even a cowpoke like you knows about those.
Yes, well, what about the fingerprint-activated locks on the evidence lockers?
Fingerprint-activated locks. What kind of newfangled doohickeys are those?
He's not being very helpful.
He's not that good with machines or with following orders.
Everyone's got their weaknesses now, don't they, Mr. Prosecutor? This one seems like trouble. Okay, Mr. Wright, it's all yours. Have fun.
Press.
This jabroni. I hope he has, like, weeks where he just becomes a spaceman and adopts its mannerisms.
How
that'd be
exactly did you keep an eye on the evidence room?
I'm an astronaut this week. I just made sure nothing moved in the security camera. That's room so still. Even time dies in there. I was just a caretaker who interred the recordings.
You interred them?
Videos of nothing aren't useful. When the time would come, I'd erase the tape.
If nothing unusual is recorded, tapes are to be erased every 6 hours. Wow, that is a terrible policy.
Yeah, really.
Each time I'd erase a tape, it felt like I was erasing a part of my life.
This guy has a flair for the dramatic, but it isn't going to do him any good. So, in actuality, you don't physically enter the evidence room.
Okay, so he's just a terrible cop. So
But you made your rounds on the day of the crime, right?
Ain't you heard a word I said, partner? Told you that ain't my style.
I'm afraid I don't understand.
No desperado I know lets rules get in his way.
No desperados I know join the police force.
Viva la Quinta Brigada. So, Officer Marshall, on the day of the crime.
I guess he is an official.
Yeah. Just between you and me, I didn't step foot in the evidence room that day. There was a rubber glove stuck in the victim's locker. Do you know anything about that? Sorry, partner, can't say I do. I haven't been in that crypt in weeks.
How does this guy avoid being fired?
He's got 2 security systems. In fact, it has 3. One he just didn't know about.
It seems like we should be presenting the evidence of his fingerprints in that room.
That's true.
You used to be a detective, so you used the evidence room in the past, correct? Oh, I forgot about that detail.
Yeah, back in the day, my locker was a gold mine of evidence.
And yet you didn't know about the fingerprint locking mechanism.
Sorry, partner, I ain't good with machines. Couldn't even tell you how a bike works.
That's quite incredible.
The sensors on the locker handles cannot be seen. It's well known that some detectives are unaware of their presence.
Now that he mentions it, Detective Gumshoe said something like that too.
At any rate, it doesn't seem like this is relevant. Can you tell us what you were doing when the crime took place? He's at the saloon, of course. Street side saloon.
What were you doing in a place like that?
What the? I was eating spaghetti. Spaghetti Western. You abandoned your post for a pun? Oh, good pun, but yeah. Not all desperados eat tacos, partner. That's not what I meant. Thought this... okay, whatever.
That's strange. This is usually where Edgeworth says,
The ecstasy of gold.
did you not want a raise this year?
I'm just an Anderson tramp. I was a highwayman. Along coach roads I did
Out of
ride.
ammo, Officer Marshall?
That's right, partner. Or as you'd call it, evidence. If you plan to pin me to this crime, you'd better draw. Otherwise, you're just wasting my time. My steel horse is waiting to carry him back into the West.
He's wanted.
Dead or alive.
All right, witness is not being useful at all. He can't see anything. Texans are blind. Everyone knows that.
Apparently your superiors don't. Okay, I have a trump card up my sleeve, so I best keep my cool. Before I use it, though, I better up the ante.
Oh, poker. Challenge him to a poker game. He confesses if he loses. Then we play the trump card.
I think when he says he hasn't been in there, we should present our evidence
yeah,
that he has
yeah.
been in there.
So
go to the statement where he says he hadn't been in there.
That ain't my style. Besides the room protected by security. Street side saloon. That time went down.
We can one where he said that ain't my style.
Yeah. And on the saloon, at the time it went down, we can check that against the records because he was on there, wasn't he?
Yeah, there was a time when he was supposed to go in.
Yeah. Yeah.
those?
Yes.
I don't think there's anything else, is there?
Just that record in the middle there.
The login sheet.
But that would be for another question.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Like
it could work here too.
Yeah, that's true. Not really sure exactly where the game wants it, but that's definitely
I
relevant.
think I'd go with the handprint.
I agree with the handprint.
Your Honor, what do you think about the witness's statement?
I'm not sure.
It is clearly
Wrong point. So
Okay.
maybe the sign-in sheet.
Yeah, on which statement? The one we were on, it probably would have worked for, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, I think I'd do it on the same statement.
Because he clearly was in there at some point. We have two points of evidence suggesting that. Now I'm thinking. Said I was supposed to make rounds 3 times a day. Keep wary eye.
Yeah, I would put the sign-in sheet on that ain't my style one.
If I remember right, I was at the street side. So we can also do it on that if we can figure out exactly what time.
That can work too.
I'm not sure what time he signed in.
Oops.
That's not.
Officer Marshall, doesn't this
I don't know.
doesn't
we
it strike
just did
you
it
as
on
odd?
the wrong statement.
Okay.
This is I'm staying silent there, but he's saying he was there, but the handprint he's caught red-handed.
Oh,
literally.
Yes. After all, you weren't in the security room at the time of the crime.
And yet you dragged me down here. Explain yourself, partner.
It's quite simple. You left a very large trail behind at the scene. Or to be exact, a handprint.
Listen real good, partner. Like I said, I'm the caretaker of that crypt. Pay my respects, that is. Make my rounds once a month. It's only natural my fingerprints would be there.
I only wish it were, officer. But you see, your fingerprints were covered in blood.
Oh! Witness! Your bloodstained fingerprints were at the crime scene.
The blood was wiped away, however. A liminal test clearly revealed this. Well, Marshall?
It seems to me there ain't a person in this room with a head on his shoulders.
Bang.
I take it you have an explanation then, Officer Marshall? About the blood-stained fingerprints?
Very well, you may begin your testimony about the fingerprints. Oh, joy. Found at the crime scene.
Blood-stained fingerprints.
Like I said, it's only natural for my fingerprints to be in the evidence room. One of them just happened to be at the same place as the blood-stained handprint. The murderer touched the locker where my fingerprint was by chance. The bloodstain and the fingerprint are completely unrelated. Or didn't you know the murderer was wearing gloves? See, I had nothing to do with it.
How did he know the murderer was wearing gloves?
Yeah. I guess maybe he was paying attention more than we thought.
Well, they had to call him here.
That's true.
And we don't really know those gloves are the murderers.
It's true.
They were from the locker.
Yeah. Defense may now cross-examine the witness.
This guy's hiding something, and I can feel it.
Okay, well, we still have the log showing he was there. So.
All right. Now I'm going to press these statements.
Okay.
That's because you, how did you put it, pay your respects once a month?
Yeah, that's right. That and one other thing. That locker happens to be mine. What do you mean? Well, I mean what I said. That's the locker I used when I was a detective. The locker I still use. All that's in there now, though, is a heap of broken dreams.
I see.
It'd be strange if my prints weren't all over that locker.
Apparently, his fingerprint data was never removed from that locker's programming.
Ah.
He must have been using it, using the fingerprint lock all this time without even knowing it.
Which means another former detective could have been using another locker.
That's assuming, I guess, that 2 fingerprints can open one locker.
Well,
They just never assigned it to anyone else.
there has to be some system of opening the lockers if the officer dies.
What mine?
Yeah.
Please explain. My locker is covered with my fingerprints. Just so happened the murderer touched the locker. Why would you do that?
The chances of that happening are 1,000,000 to 1.
On the contrary. The chances of that are
Marshall's tired of this testimony.
happening are 1,000,000 to 1, little doggy. Get one thing straight, partner. You ain't gonna get no reward from me with a mere fingerprint. You wanna know why?
Unrelated.
They're as different as night and day. Kind of like cereal and cereal. One's got to do with breakfast, the other's a type of murder. He's right. Although seemingly alike, they're totally different.
I don't see what homonyms have to do with this.
Okay.
How did you know that?
I may be a loner, but I still do my job. I'll keep up with the reports.
There was a bloodstain at the scene, thought to be left by the murderer.
That's right. It was found on Detective Gumshoe's locker.
However, no fingerprints were detected on that handprint.
Oh, yeah. I think we tried that too.
So that would mean the murderer, wearing gloves, happened to place their hand on top of Officer Marshall's handprint. It's the only logical conclusion. Are you starting to get that picture there, partner?
The picture.
Oh, the seal of blood in the desert is just food for the buzzards.
Bang.
There's only one reality, and that's this. The security tape. So long as my trail isn't there, you can't say otherwise. This isn't getting us anywhere, Mr. Wright. Please consider carefully where you're going with this cross-examination.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now then, continue your testimony, Officer Marshall. Oh,
Pressing. What do you mean by that?
you want to tie me to this crime, isn't that right, partner?
Ellipsis.
If so, the video is the only direct evidence you have. We have the...
But that video is next to useless. It's full of blind spots.
blind spots.
Places you can't see.
Oh, that makes sense.
The camera's panning back and forth. The floor isn't shown. If someone was familiar with the camera's position, they could leave the room without being caught on tape.
We don't have time for your speculations, Mr. Wright.
Well, Mr. Wright, do we have time? Officer Marshall was present. Please show us.
Well,
Is there any evidence in the video?
We have the log showing he was in the room at some point that
Yeah,
time.
but the video, I'm not sure. has
Very
evidence.
well.
On the video. Oh, joy.
Tread carefully, Mr. Wright, or you might wind up being the one making the mistake. I mean, unless a fingerprint shows up somewhere.
Now then, let's have another look at the video. Unless we want to look for the handprint on the badger. But I don't understand where that... Show us the incriminating evidence. Do, 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 do.
The bloody handprints behind the blue badger, like that can't be possible.
Ah. Yeah.
Well, and the blue badger just freaked out there for a second.
I think it just does that. And there's him.
Wow. Wow, get you.
Like how the flag just perfectly covers his
Yep.
face.
There's no handprint behind the blue badger.
Not yet.
Now he's gone. There's still no handprint. What? Okay. I'm not looking at the right thing here. What changed?
Oh, there is the thing hanging out.
Ah,
Was that hanging out the whole video?
I don't know.
No. Bringing our attention back to the security camera is a mistake I'm afraid you'll soon not forget, Officer Marshall.
The days are short in Texas, and so are our tempers. Could you sum up what you have to say in 8 words or less?
Very well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You can clearly be seen in this video.
Exactly 8 words. Not bad.
The key lies in a certain locker shown in that video.
Okay, yeah. That was the witnesses, I believe.
And now then, let's rewind the video a bit.
Okay, you were right. I was too busy looking for... I can't remember what I was looking for now.
Anything but a cloth hanging out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was looking for handprints. I was looking for handprints to manifest.
Ah, it's gone.
Ah.
Oh.
It is indeed gone. What's the meaning of this? You wizard.
When the crime took place, the white cloth wasn't there. Then it suddenly appeared. There's only one explanation. Officer Marshall, you were in the evidence room at the time of the crime. What's more, you opened your locker when the camera was turned away.
Order. It would seem let's hold your horses. Hold your horses, partner. You got the wrong man.
Ellipsis.
So what if my locker was open? It doesn't mean I'm the one who opened it. The murderer needed to hide something, so he opened the locker and stuck it in. It's not my fault he happened to choose mine. Why is everyone staring at me like I'm a wanted man?
He doesn't realize it needs a fingerprint to open.
Yeah.
This guy just isn't just playing dumb. He really doesn't know. Well, I hate to rain on your parade, but you're the only person who can open that particular locker.
Oh, yeah? I call your bluff. Say open that locker. Now prove it. Oh. Okay, what evidence shows us?
The time that he walked into the... Oh, that too.
Yeah.
A fingerprint sensor? We talked about this earlier today. The lockers can only be opened by detectives they belong to.
What kind of crazy talk is this?
Well, Detective Gumshoe did mention something about this.
In any case, locks aren't that obvious. There are even some people on the force don't know about a fingerprint lock. Pal.
So, Sheriff, what do you have to say in 8 words or less?
Oh, he's got jerky. Tough jerky. I only got one word for you, partner. No! Order. Witness. Explain yourself. If this is a joke, it's the worst I've ever heard, partner.
I assure you this is no joke, Officer Marshall. Now then, please tell us what you're doing in the evidence room at the time of the crime.
Ole. Please answer the question.
What is he now, a bullfighter? That's all right, Officer Marshall. I believe we can figure out the rest from here.
We can?
Have a look at these floor plans.
Oh, thank you, game. I would not have thought to do this.
There's no place for someone to hide in the evidence room. Yet, Officer Meekins didn't see Officer Marshall.
If that's so, then where was the witness?
It seems Mr. Wright has an answer.
That's right. The only possible conclusion.
The white cloth was his coat that looked like Mr. Goodman's.
Well, it's okay. Well, let's hear it.
Officer Marshall was standing right here.
Yeah, he's the victim. But that's where the victim, Detective Goodman, was.
Correct. Unless the man wasn't Detective Goodman. I believe the victim in the video is Officer Marshall. It was you dressed up like Detective Goodman.
Continuing some old case, the SL9 case.
But that's preposterous. Officer Meekins witnessed the detective at the crime scene.
Not really.
Once he saw the man's face, he'd know for sure.
May I point out, though, that Officer Meekins did not know Detective Goodman? And also testified the man's reaction when confronted.
Well, I entered the evidence room. I asked him to show me his card.
Yes, and how did Detective Goodman respond?
He suddenly pulled a knife on me.
Something about the officer's story puzzled me. If the man had his ID card, why didn't he just show it?
That he would have needed it to enter the evidence room. Must have been carrying it.
The answer is simple. He couldn't show it. As you can see, Detective Goodman's picture is on this ID card.
Oh, I get it.
If he showed that, his cover would have been blown. Officer Meekins would have realized the man wasn't Detective Goodman. Do you have anything to say to this, Officer Marshall?
You've got quite an imagination, partner. We got a term for that. It's called circumstantial evidence.
Circumstantial? He's still denying it?
You're going to have to do better than that to break a detective. Unless you have hard evidence proving I dressed up as the victim. Huh. Can't say I particularly care for your uncooperative disposition. I can't say I care for your beard. You don't see me complaining. Mr. Wright, protect my beard's honor. Prove that he dressed up as the victim. Well, he plays dress up. We see that.
Well, who am I kidding? I don't have anything like that.
I can see the fear in your eyes, partner. Seems you're the one who couldn't take the desert heat.
This can't be happening.
Edgeworth, help.
It's so obvious he's the one. What can I do?
Thank you, Edgeworth.
Good call.
It looks like your lack of experience has finally been exposed.
Ours or his?
Bang.
I'll pass on to you what someone told me when I was just starting out.
Fake it.
When you've run into a wall with no place to go, return to the basics.
The basics? For me, that would be what Mia used to tell me.
Oh, it's her.
Phoenix, try thinking outside of the box.
Seems like the opposite of basics.
I shouldn't look for proof that Officer Marshall was in disguise, but rather I should look for evidence that came about because he was in disguise.
Why do you think this locker was open in the first place?
What do you mean?
There's no reason for Officer Marshall to open his locker at the time of the crime. Yet he did, despite the chance it might have been discovered later as it has been.
Which means he didn't originally plan to open his locker.
According to the defense's argument, Officer Jake Marshall dressed up as Detective Goodman at the time of the crime. Then after the crime was committed, he opened his own locker for some unknown reason.
The fact of a white cloth is sticking out of the locker seems to indicate that he opened it in order to put the cloth inside.
Just exactly what is this piece of cloth?
Perhaps the video
Oh,
is
the
the key
video.
to
Yay.
all our unanswered questions. I didn't have any evidence, so this video is my only shot.
Very well. Let's take yet another look at the video. After committing the crime, witness opened the locker to put away the white cloth. Please show us why the witness.
There's blood on his trench coat.
There's blood on his trench coat, yeah.
Yep.
I'm not sure if it's his or Meekin's, but whatever.
No blood. There it is.
Yep.
Hands down, and for some reason, you disguised yourself as Detective Goodman. You entered the evidence room, though I don't know to what end yet.
Yet.
However, something unexpected happened. Officer Meekins barged in on you. When asked to show your ID card, you pulled a knife on him. However, Officer Meekins panicked, and the white coat you were wearing was soiled with blood.
A bloody white coat.
You couldn't just walk out like that, so you hid the coat in your locker.
Not bad, partner. Now then, Officer Marshall. Are you ready to tell us the truth? Looks like I underestimated y'all. I hope you're happy now, Edgeworth. Edgy boy. 2 years ago. If you were only half as persistent then as you are today, we all wouldn't have to be here now, would we?
Officer Marshall, tell the court what you did, all of it.
All right. Seems the time has come.
I can't tell if that's his hair or like a cloth he's got draped
Yeah.
over his head.
Could be either way.
I had to do it that day. It was the last time I stole a detective's ID and dressed like him. I planned to take out the evidence. I wasn't expecting Officer Meekins, the wily one, so I knocked him out. And managed to escape. I knew which areas wouldn't be caught on the camera. There wasn't any murder in the evidence room at 5:15. So the supposed victim was really you.
But there's one thing I still don't understand. Traces of a large quantity of blood were found on the floor of the evidence room. If no one was murdered, then how could that be?
Officer Meekins managed to cut his own hand. My guess he's the donor.
It was way too much blood for a small donation. Pro wrestling.
I had to do it. Couldn't just stand by and
When you say it,
The
you mean
SL9 incident. You even have to ask.
the SL9 incident.
2 years have passed since that case was closed. It was going to completely end with the transferal that day.
Not if I have anything to do with it. That incident's not over.
But what did you hope to accomplish by sneaking into the evidence room?
When a case is closed, only the case's lead detective can look through the evidence. I wanted to have a look at it myself one more time. No matter what the cost. I don't care what anyone says, partner. That case is mine.
But Officer Marshall wasn't in charge of that investigation. Why does he care so much about it?
That day was my last chance. That's why. I stole the detective's ID and dressed like him.
Why did you disguise yourself as Detective Goodman?
If I didn't make it look like Goodman was carrying out the evidence transfer, I'd be arrested for stealing evidence, which wouldn't get me anywhere.
So you did it to fool the security camera.
And the detective's ID card. I stole that the morning of the incident.
So that really was why Goodman started filling out the lost items report.
I returned it. Left it on the floor in the prosecutor's office parking lot.
The ID card I found was left there by Officer Marshall.
Okay, that's important.
So essentially, you managed to succeed despite your lack of foresight.
What do you mean, partner?
I mean, the fingerprint activated lock, of course. No matter how well you disguise yourself, you can't change your fingerprints. Under normal circumstances, you wouldn't have been able to open that locker yourself.
But he could because a rubber glove just happened to get stuck in the door. That means Detective Goodman must have opened the locker before Officer Marshall.
Yeah, that would bear out in the records.
Or did he?
You pulled a knife on Officer Minkins and tried to drive him off.
Let's just say I was a little surprised. I only planned on being in the evidence room for no more than 5 minutes. Didn't think anyone would come in during that short time. Officer Meekins certainly is a 1 in a million type of person. Mistaking a detective for an intruder and demanding to be shown his ID. What a hero.
I'll have to think a little more about his raise this year.
When did Edgeworth get so much influence?
Anyway, he threw himself at me. I ended up cutting him slightly. I'm sorry it had to turn out that way. With me knocking him out and everything.
By the way, what happened to your knife?
Oh, you mean listen?
I don't even know what to say.
You knocked out Officer Meekins. And...
So you did your research beforehand.
Those who go into the desert unprepared don't live long, partner. I didn't think it would make a difference, though. The secured tape is erased every 6 hours. If all had gone as planned, no footage would have been left.
However, your bloodied coat and your struggle with Officer Meekins.
If someone was in the security room when I came out, the jig would have been up. I opened my locker and stashed it in there.
What was Officer Meekins doing during that time?
What else? He was sleeping like a baby. On that day.
But the blood found at the scene certainly indicates a crime took place.
What are you, blind? The victim shown on that tape is me. I'm not dead, partner. Not yet.
So, you stole the evidence from the locker.
Actually, no, I didn't.
Why not?
When I opened the locker, the evidence was already gone. Mr. Edgeworth, where is that evidence?
It's still missing, Your Honor.
Okay,
Detective Goodman's locker was already empty? Someone else stole the evidence. Officer Marshall, may I ask you one thing?
Fire away, partner. It's a free country. Just remember, I'm also free to decide whether or not to answer. Not really.
Why did you do this? Stealing a detective's ID, injuring a police officer. This is no small offense.
Moreover, you're an officer yourself. This will have serious consequences. It can't just be forgiven with a simple cut in salary.
Not that salary carts are a valid solution.
Like I said, this isn't your case. This one is mine. And I'll do anything it takes to get an answer I'm satisfied with. The witness has an unusual amount of zeal. Let's hear more. No, I don't.
No. Yeah. But that case was solved 2 years ago, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. That's the reason the evidence was stored in the locker.
Joe Dark was convicted for his crimes. One thing I can say for sure is he deserved a sentence.
I remember the Joe Dark case. It involved serial murders, didn't it? I don't intend to complain about how it turned out, but there's something that still bothers me. Something went down at that trial. Something no one will talk about. What happened? I don't know. That's what I'm trying to find out.
Why is he so concerned with that incident? Maybe I should press him with what I think his real reason
Oh,
is.
present him.
I had a feeling we'd wind up here sooner or later. Everyone involved here is related in some way to that case. I'd better take another look at the files.
Yeah, I guess we should actually
Or
read
an
our
actual
homework.
look at those files. Yeah, so let's look at the files.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Where's
so
the
we
big
just got,
stack of
yeah,
papers? Let's check them.
yeah, Lana was really nice and gave us all this right before the trial. And sentence death, okay. Edward Jones. Hashtag Neil Marshall.
Hashtag Jeb Bates.
Right.
Victims. Oh,
Lana
head
and
prosecutor.
Emma were the witnesses.
Oh. Executive Damon Gant. Oh, okay. Damon Gant and Lana Skye were the executive investigators together. Bruce Goodman, head investigator, along with Jake Marshall and Angel. Okay, I think it's coming together.
All right, so just present that, I guess.
Your Honor, the case is closed. We'll have to come back tomorrow.
Hopefully it'll be open by then.
Yeah.
Yeah. The witness's statement is clearly faulty, Your Honor.
I don't see anything wrong.
Did we do it on the wrong statement?
Probably. I'm going to penalize you.
I'm probably on the wrong track.
You got penalized.
Where should we do this?
Okay, so you stole the detective. Okay, that doesn't seem wrong. Managed to escape. That seems right.
Do it on the lap. Present
Yeah.
the files here.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we'll cross the bridge of what specific page when we get to it.
Officer Marshall, I think I understand. I think I know why you care so much about the SL9 incident.
Sounds like you've been sipping too much cactus juice, partner.
I have the SL9 incident file here. The name, Marshall, is mentioned in here.
Well, yeah. It's his case.
And a list of murder victims.
Oh, Neil Marshall.
Neil Marshall. Are you related to this man?
Neil Marshall?
Yeah, I'm sure you've heard the name. Hashtag Neil Marshall. 2 years ago. Oh. He received the same lousy prosecutor award you got. A prosecutor.
He must be talking about the King of Prosecutors Award.
Now I remember. Prosecutor Neil Marshall. He handled the SL9 case before I did.
That's right. He was killed. And the case fell into your hands. But what's his relation to you? Oh. It is his hair. It just looks
It
weird.
is his hair. Yeah.
That's
the thing we noticed.
The great mystery revealed. The hats are off. All bets are off, too. He was investigating the murders with David Gant. He was deputy chief of police. Okay. The group of detectives I was a part of worked under them. We were desperate to prosecute the killer. Yeah, he does look like a murderer. Joe Dark.
Well,
My brother fought Dark and was killed. That was the first time Dark left behind any evidence. That was all we needed. He was arraigned and incarcerated. The case was finally closed. At least according to the public records. What do you mean? My brother couldn't have been killed by Joe Dark. I knew my brother better than anyone, and he was a pussy. No, oh, never mind. No one could have beaten him in a fight. Okay, that's...
And that's it? That's your reason for your insane actions?
There's more to my brother's death than what the records say. No matter how much you try to hide it, you can't fool me. Well, at least one thing's for certain. Now we know what happened at the police department on the day of the crime.
That was the last day the SL9 case could be reopened. Not satisfied with its resolution, Officer Marshall planned to steal the evidence.
disguising himself as Detective Goodman, he entered the evidence room. Officer Minkins confronted him, so he rendered him unconscious and fled.
Yes, this mystery has finally been cleared up.
Can we get back to our trial?
No murder took place at the police department that day.
Bang!
Yeah, we're back to that.
The things that happen by chance never cease to amaze. At exactly the same time as the murder at the prosecutor's office, this fake murder was going on at the police department.
Chance? It's got to be more than just that.
So if no one was murdered at the police department on the day of the crime, that means the murderer in the prosecutor's office parking lot was the real one.
Which, in turn, means only one person could have committed the crime. Chief Prosecutor Lana Skye.
But wait, a verdict wasn't reached in yesterday's trial.
Which is why we examined the incident at the police department today.
But
There's only one reason the defendant was not convicted yesterday. There yet remained the mystery of the simultaneous murder at the police department.
Seems to me this boy's got the draw on you, partner.
All of the mysteries of the police department have been resolved, no doubt about it. Our sole murder took place at the prosecutor's office. The only suspect is Lana Skye. And the testimony of one Miss Angel Starr is completely incontestable.
I could test it.
If you have a response, make it a single word or less.
Oh,
Objection.
ooh, you son of a...
ellipsis. Arg.
What?
Not technically a word. It's a sound.
I rest my case.
Seems this trial has reached its conclusion. There's no room for doubt.
Except for the gaping hole of doubt.
Yeah, like we got like liters of blood to
It's a
count
big
for.
D, that's for sure.
Well done, Mr. Wright. Thanks to you, I didn't need to waste my time disproving the alleged murder at the police department.
There's no doubt what I proved today is true. The apparent murder on the security camera's tape really was fake. But I didn't realize that would end up proving Lana guilty.
Now then, the time for the verdict has come. The court finds the defendant. Oh, there you are.
Zimma.
Your Honor, wait.
Emma.
The defense has an objection, a scientific objection. Right?
What do you mean, right?
Mr. Wright? Are you this girl's guardian?
Your Honor. In a sense.
Please, Your Honor, all I'm asking is for a minute of your time. Please hear me out. Mr. Edgeworth, please. I don't want to leave any loose ends. You want a minute? I'll give you 3. I was kind of in shock. I mean, finding out the SL9 incident referred to the Joe Dark killings.
And now that she mentions it, the names of both Skye sisters were in that file.
Yeah.
But that's when I figured it out. I mean, what Officer Marshall was trying to do that day. So I knew his fingerprints had nothing to do with the crime. That left only one thing, the other handprint. You mean the traces of blood found on Detective Gumshoe's locker?
But no fingerprints were found on it, right?
No, but I figured if I examined it scientifically, I'd be sure to find a clue. So I ran over there and looked at it again.
How'd she get in?
So did you find something? Yeah, really. How did she get
Maybe
in?
she got Lana's key card?
Maybe.
No.
Oh,
Huh?
Sorry, I guess I'm not much of a scientific investigator after all.
Ellipsis. Is that all?
Please don't be mad. I'm just a high school student.
And I'm just an attorney.
But Mr. Wright, those traces of blood are the only clue we have. If we can't find something wrong with him, please, Mr. Wright, you're a professional. If anyone can save Lana, it's you.
well,
Me? Oh, boy.
time's up. Now then, Mr. Wright. With regard to the incident at the police department, does any reasonable doubt remain?
It appears the defense is troubled by the other blood mark.
There's an awful lot of blood.
Looking at the floor plans, a handprint was discovered around here. Is there a problem with this?
Sure, somewhere.
Mr. Wright, I'm sorry I can't be of more use. But still,
Well,
if you can't find anything wrong, Lana will be.
we didn't see it on the camera.
Yes, it almost had to happen later.
It had to have happened sometime
Your
after this incident.
Your Honor, if ever I needed to concentrate, it's now.
I mean, admittedly, the blue badger is blocking it, but we don't see it when it moves.
What could be wrong with that
It's not
handprint
on the
on Detective
videotape.
Gumshoe's locker? Could there be something I'm missing?
I object.
Yeah, really.
I object to this state of affairs.
This handprint left at the crime scene clearly shows a contradiction.
The only thing that seems clear is you're grasping, Mr. Wright.
You've been staring pretty intently at those floor plans. Tell me, is there something wrong with them?
Yeah, this is strange. Take a good look at these floor plans.
What is this, an evidence room for ants?
Something is missing.
Missing? You mean something hasn't been drawn on there?
Uh-huh. Yes. Something that, when drawn, will completely change the meaning of the blood mark.
Oh. Let us pray the defense isn't wasting my time. Very well, Mr. Wright. I'm being very petulant right now.
With all this evidence here, there's got to be something I can use.
Question is, which item can prove something is missing?
The blue badger.
Yeah.
Oh!
What about that piece of plywood?
The blue badger, mascot of the police force. Defender of truth, guardian of proof.
Ah, because he's blocking
Explain yourself, Mr. Wright.
everything.
Please look at the floor plans of the crime scene. The Blue Badger is not here.
So
watch what happens when we put him in. This is where he was dancing at the time of the crime.
yep.
Well,
Well, what? Means we can't see.
that's right. So long as the Blue Badger is dancing here, it would be impossible to place a handprint at the spot on the
Okay,
locker.
it was a lot closer than I thought. What?
Rabble.
That means what? What does that mean?
It means it can't be done.
What are you saying? Blood traces were undeniably found on that locker.
Don't look at me. I didn't put him there.
Mr. Wright, think it through scientifically.
Okay, so
Emma.
it
On
means
that afternoon, Officer Meekins was the one who brought the Blue Badger to the evidence room, right? After he put it down, it would be impossible to leave a handprint on that locker.
so it was Mr.
So that
7777.
must mean this blood mark was left there before the Blue Badger was brought in.
Yeah.
Or after it was brought out. But
Possibly. Possibly. Yes. Just one moment. I will not allow such far-fetched balderdash in my courtroom. Maybe.
It may be far-fetched, Your Honor, but it's the only possible explanation. On February 21st, in the police department's evidence room, with the candlestick,
There was
a blood was spilled not once, but twice.
But how?
One time was captured on this tape, taken by the security camera. Officer Meekins cut his hand, from which a trivial amount of blood fell. The problem is, the other time,
Yeah, it's blocking where the handprint was, I guess.
someone bled prior to the struggle shown on this tape. It had to have been. It had to have been
The victim.
Detective Goodman when he was really murdered.
That's ridiculous. I refuse to accept your absurd claim.
The murder portrayed in the security tape has been proven to be a fake. However, that does not explain the blood mark found on the locker.
So then, assuming this murder you purport really happened, when did it take place? I demand you show evidence that proves when it occurred.
Mr. 7777 at the very beginning of the
When
of the
did
log.
the first incident occur?
Probably before.
When Gant let Goodman into the evidence room.
Yeah.
Because Gant is obviously 7777. He's the only other portrait we have.
And he's got all the biblical...
Yeah, he's got he's the angelic number of 777, which you would know if you watched Hot Fuzz. Prior to Officer Meekins being cut by Jake Marshall,
I
who
won't
was
lie.
posing as Detective Goodman.
I knew nothing about the 7777 being biblical.
Nicholas, I didn't until I watched Hot Fuzz, and everyone was making the joke of Nicholas Angel 777 as
a magical number.
yeah.
Ah,
It's like it's like like 6666.
yeah.
Only it's not really 666, but whatever. Yeah, 777's got that thing.
That's right. The blood mark on the locker proves this.
Very well. Tell us who did this bleeding. As Mr. Edgeworth said, proof must be presented. Well, okay. Well,
Proof that shows us when the murder. Well, present the
log.
Present the log. Yeah.
Now then, will the defense please present the evidence we've been... Stop negging me on this thing. I've got evidence, I swear.
Yeah. If the crime took place inside the evidence room, then the killer would have to enter it. And
What?
in order to do so, an ID card would have been required.
ID card. Oh, yeah, that record.
Dun, dun, dun.
Oh,
Officer
crap.
Meekins brought the Blue Badger panel into the evidence room at
4:50. If the crime took place before that time, it would be... Mr. Edgeworth, what have you done?
Ah,
Oh, mamma mia. Here we go again. Edgeworth, just what have you done? I never would have figured you had the nerve, boy.
Drop the act, witness. It doesn't take a lot of thought to figure out it couldn't have been me.
Because he was getting the award.
Ah, yes.
Nope, I ain't getting it. I'm afraid I don't understand either. He was getting the award.
It's clear from the luminol test that blood was there. However, when the second crime took place, both Officer Meekins and Officer Marshall failed to notice
It was
the blood.
behind the thingy.
that means the blood from the first crime was wiped away by the real murderer.
I would have had just 10 minutes to murder the victim, carry his body away, and clean up the blood. Unfortunately, that's physically impossible.
So you need at least 20 more minutes.
Which would mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's look at the chart again.
7,
What is our
7,
blank spot?
7.
Yes, 777777.
Talk about a lucky number. That doesn't make sense. It can't be. How could Detective Goodman have entered the evidence room?
Since there's no record of his card being used beforehand, he must have entered with the real murderer.
Ah.
That's the only plausible explanation. He went in with 77777777.
There's 7 sevens.
7 sevens.
Ah. Please look into this ASAP, Mr. Edgeworth. The fate of humanity. 777777.
That's 1 7 too many, Your Honor. Unfortunately, I'm unable to look up the owner of that ID card. At least at present.
What?
It's classified. Explain yourself, son.
The ID number 7777777 belongs to someone with a rank of captain or higher. Someone who is so-called executive officer. We don't have the authority to inquire into such a person's identity.
But that's ridiculous. Just how?
I'm not finished talking, Mr. Wright. There is one situation in which we can be granted such authority.
If an official charge filed against an executive is accepted.
An official charge?
You're all alike, aren't you? With your cover-ups and your forgeries. That's how the prosecutor's office operates. It's clearly an issue with the police department.
I take pride in my work, Officer Marshall. I would appreciate it if you would keep your slander to yourself.
Slander? Okay. Let me ask a question.
Yes.
Not to you, to her. The defendant sitting over there. Oh, yeah, she's here in the courtroom, isn't
I
she?
totally forgot about her.
Your own little executive.
Lana?
Where is she? I don't know where she is.
Don't be stupid. She's been charged with murder.
Yeah, player.
Of course we've looked up her ID number. And it's not 7777777.
Don't play me for a fool, partner. That's not what I wanted to ask. All I want to know is one thing about that incident. Yes or no incident? Answer me this, Chief Prosecutor. In that trial 2 years ago, did you really only use legitimate evidence? Hi, I'm here now.
Do you need the witness to repeat this question, Chief Prosecutor?
I heard him fine, Mr. Edgeworth.
2 years ago, I was in charge of the prosecution for that trial. At the time,
Occasionally, we felt powerlessness. We felt the powerlessness of the law. At least I did.
Bang.
Lana!
I became a prosecutor in order to suppress crime with the law. But before I realized it, we were the ones being suppressed by the law. Defendant, what are you saying? I'll ask you again, Chief Prosecutor. During the trial 2 years ago, did you really present all the evidence in court? Can you look at me, an investigator in that crime, in the eye, and say that you did? Chief Prosecutor, you didn't. I don't have to, Officer Marshall.
Why won't you answer him?
Drastic crimes require drastic measures. That's just the way it is. We did what we had to in order for him to get the verdict he deserved.
But Lana!
Even if it involved forging evidence. Oh, okay. Can somebody stop playing with the lights? See, that's what I'm talking about.
No.
No! Order!
Lana's remarks caused such a stir, the chaos in the courtroom could not be quelled. The conclusion of the trial would have to wait until the following day. And with that, we
Just
come to
getting
the
so
conclusion
good.
of
Yeah.
part 4. Join us next time as we go into, I guess, I don't know if it's more
Probably
investigation.
the ending. Probably the last
Probably,
day.
well, we got to fight the lynch mob and all
Yeah.
that, but you know.
Anyway, thanks for watching.